Okay, we are here. We are live. I'm a little late, and hopefully, you all can see and hear me clearly. Normally, I don't go live this late on an afternoon. I rely heavily on natural lighting. So, in case you don't see me that clearly, my apologies. Now, I want to take a little time to have some people come into the live stream. So, what I want to do very quickly is that I want to play a portion of my latest interview that I did with Aretha Franklin's grandchildren on TD News Network concerning how the Genius Aretha series that's aired on National Geographic, they did not get any type of approval, nor did they ever talk with the actual family members of Aretha Franklin before they shot the series. They never consulted with them. The Aretha Franklin's family reached out to them multiple times, and they actually just got dissed and ignored every single time. So I want to play a piece of that clip. Excuse me, that was really loud. I want to play a piece of that interview for you while we allow some people to come into the live stream, and then we're going to get back into the discussion. The National Geographic, they did release a statement, and they said this: the studio worked diligently to attain the endorsement of Aretha's estate, which we are grateful to have. We worked with many people who knew Miss Franklin, from Clive Davis to members of her estate. And what I found interesting about that is that they made a point to very cleverly and wisely say, we got permission and we spoke to the estate, not the family. And from my understanding, currently at the moment, the family is not in control of the estate as of now. So who did they actually talk to and gain approval from if it wasn't from the family, yet it's the estate?
Well, our family is involved with the estate. There's a lot of holdup that's going on in court right now. Just trying to figure everything out, and until then, there's a third party that's been a third party PR that's been appointed by the court. But we're all involved. I'm not sure exactly who they spoke with. I know that they spoke with a lot of her friends and her in the music industry and a lot of people that she was associated with, and that's all good and well. I think our issue is like we said, it's the close family, and there's a side of her that the music industry doesn't know. And there's a side of her that even some of the extended family don't know. My family, we're not looking for some big payday. We're not trying to hold a stronghold on the Aretha Franklin name or anything like that. We just care. This is my grandmother. This is my dad's mom. We just care about her legacy. She spent a long time, 50 plus years building a legacy and building a name. And we just want to protect that and continue that.
I think we mostly just ask that that even if you do choose to watch it, to not really take like everything that's being said like to heart, because we're not really sure how accurate it is, and to just like be on the lookout for a film that will be produced by the family with like actual factual evidence.
Do you all have any contact with the producers and those who are making the Respect movie with Jennifer Hudson? How has that relationship developed, if there's one at all?
It's actually really interesting because we were kind of in the same situation with them in regards to them starting production without being able to communicate with us. And as soon as we reached out, it was just like a totally different response. They wanted to make sure they acknowledged our concerns and they were willing to negotiate with us. And so we're still in negotiations right now, and we're feeling pretty optimistic about where we're going with that film.
It appears that the producers of Aretha were only concerned with overly sensationalizing the life and legacy of Aretha Franklin. In a recent review of the series written on Vulture.com titled "Did Genius Aretha Really Need to Exist?", the author Craig Jenkins goes on to display all of the lies and inconsistencies that occur within the series. One of the most outrageous being that Martin Luther King Jr. attempted to make a pass at Aretha Franklin. In his review of the film concerning this, Jenkins would go on to write, "Elsewhere, Genius has time to suggest Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. tried to initiate an affair with the singer, but not to show her famous performance of Take My Hand, Precious Lord, King's favorite song at his 1968 funeral." What's even more frightening than this allegation that Martin Luther King Jr. attempted to make a pass at Aretha Franklin is the fact that Genius Season 4 will be documenting and chronicling the life of Martin Luther King Jr. We can only begin to imagine how overly sensationalized that series will be. They're about to have Martin Luther King look crazy. in season 4 of Genius. We already know what's going on with that. If you haven't watched the interview yet, you can find that interview I did with Aretha Franklin's grandchildren on TD News Network. If you're not subscribed to my news channel, TD News Network, head on over there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on that channel. We give you the news that you want to know about, that you want to hear about, and that needs to get out there. So now, with all that being said, please, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you're not subscribed and you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to share this video. And now we can get into this discussion. Now, what I wanted to talk about today is something that I wanted to discuss for quite some time now. It's not going to take too long for me to go through it, but I thought that this was the perfect time considering the whole Lil Nas X controversy that's going on right now with him twerking on the devil, as well as him selling Satan shoes, and that whole conversation that we see happening currently at this moment. Now, here's the thing. I want to say this first and foremost, right? I know a lot of people are going to be triggered and have a knee-jerk reaction to say that I'm picking on this particular community, the LGBTQ community, and I'm not. And we're going to go deeper in that next Wednesday when I have my good brother Rob on the show with me. He doesn't know he's going to be on the show yet, but he knows now. Because the thing is that it's not just the LGBTQ community that rides on the coattails of Black history, Black struggle, and Black pain in order to elevate their own agenda. It's not just them. It's everyone as a whole. It's the entire American system as a whole. You see this happening all the time. You'll see AOC on the Breakfast Club or on Hot 97. And while she's on the Breakfast Club or Hot 97, she's supposed to be speaking on Black issues, but then somehow she'll segue into immigration. You see this also with Cori Bush, who was also a part of the squad, where Cori Bush, she rode the coattails of Black Lives Matter. And as opposed to championing a Black agenda and reparations, Cori Bush is championing environmental racism, right? Instead of talking about and addressing a Black agenda for historical redlining, she's talking about environmental racism and how you have these coal mining companies or these Ford Motor companies that have these big factories in Black communities, and they're putting pollution all in our communities. So that's why we have to fight environmental racism, and we got to pass a Green New Deal. So this isn't an LGBTQ thing. This has nothing to do with them particularly. This is something that happens all around. But I really want to focus on them today because I've been wanting to talk about this for quite some time now. Now, give me a second. It's hot in here. I haven't had to wipe myself down on a live stream in a long time. But I'm going to be doing that a couple times today because it's hot in this room. Now, let's get into it. You see, because when it comes to the LGBTQ community, right? When it comes to LGBTQ community and Black history, what we've seen consistently, particularly when it comes to Black Lives Matter, is that they have a way in which they ride on the coattails of our history in order to get their agenda across the finish line, right? They've taken deceased dead Black bodies, particularly Black male bodies, and they're doing it through BLM, Black Lives Matter. And they're using that as a catalyst to springboard off their own particular agenda. And the reason that this is able to happen is because when you look at the history of Black Americans, particularly the descendants of American slavery, you're coming from slavery, 1865 to 1965, from 1619 to 1865. And then you get Jim Crow from 1865 to 1965. And then from 1965 onward to the present day, you have the war on drugs, as well as mass incarceration. And with mass incarceration, we have the whole Black Lives Matter movement that's come about that pretends to care about the killing of heterosexual Black men. But the thing is with Black Lives Matter is that the moment that they came into fruition, what you saw was immediately the conversation changed from Black Lives Matter to Black trans lives matter, right? Black queer lives matter. Now, you would think that with just the slogan of Black Lives Matter, that's more than enough because that encompasses everybody. Doesn't matter what your sexual orientation is, what your gender is. If you're Black, that's the only barrier of entry. But the purposes of including Black trans matter, Black queer matter. It's to shift the conversation in another direction. Now, the reality is that Black Lives Matter is an LGBTQ organization. And some people might think that that's a bit of a stretch, but I'm actually going to prove that to you right now. And I'm going to play this video and we're going to come right back.
Thank you so much for having me. I think that it is crucial that we understand that Black trans people have been the blueprint for the struggle for Black freedom for forever. We, the founders of Patrice Cullors, Opal Tometi, all three of them started Black Lives Matter with the intention of Black trans women being at the center of this work. As the movement has grown and as time has passed, we've perhaps moved away from that in some ways, but I think that in general we have to understand that this moment that we are experiencing requires and necessitates the presence, uplifting, and empowerment of Black trans people. And I think that the moment that we find ourselves in is one that I hope has longevity and continues to move forward.
So she just admitted to you right there. I think I should just play it one more time. She literally just admitted to you that the organization was founded for the purposes of putting Black trans and LGBTQ in general at the forefront of the movement and at the forefront of the discussion. She literally just told you that this was never about Black people at large. This was never about Black families. And it most definitely was never, ever, ever about Black men. That's for sure. It was never about us. But it was about prioritizing their agendas over our people at large in order to get an LGBTQ agenda to the forefront, to which you have a multitude of bills passing or getting on the horizon, getting ready to pass, that addresses their needs, yet negates and ignores the Black collective at large. This is very criminal to me. And then that now puts us in a position to where we have discussions like this going on, right?
For transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we have believed that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions?
You see, so now this is where we are. And here's my thing. I don't really have a problem with well, let me not say that. Here's my thing. People in that community can do what they want, right? But stop piggybacking off of our struggle, the Black struggle at large, in order to springboard your agenda. Like I said, this is something that's done deliberately. We got to this point because of Black Lives Matter organization and the way that it was constructed in order to push an LGBTQ agenda while riding the back and the wave of dead, straight, Black male bodies. And then you constantly see this need to put a Black face on this agenda, because what it does is that it serves two purposes for me. The one purpose is that if you're Black and you have something to say about it, you're homophobic. If you're not Black and you have something to say about it, you're homophobic and you're racist. So no matter what way you attempt to criticize it or have an opinion on it or give certain facts about it, it's a lose-lose either way, no matter how you go about it, because you have a Black face on it. So with the Black face on it, it's almost always untouchable. That's why you never hear anybody talking about immigrant LGBTQ lives matter or Jewish LGBTQ lives. Nobody talks about that. They exist, but they don't talk about it. They execute these agendas through you and off of the back of your pain, your struggle, and your history. And that now brings us back to Lil Nas X, where we are now with him. Because, you know, this was a brother, and let me pull this screen up in front of me. This is somebody, give me a second, share the screen. Okay, so this should be in front of you right now, right? Okay, so this was a man that was deliberately promoted to children, right? He was promoted to children. When he came out with his song Old Town Road and everybody was just having a good old time singing along to that, he pretty much went on an elementary school world tour when he first came out. And I remember very clearly back then, because at the time I was still a Lyft driver, right? That's what I used to do for a living. I was driving around all day. I remember riding around the city, riding around LA and listening to, I believe the hip hop station is 93.7 or something like that. And they would say on the radio, they would go, hey, if you want Lil Nas X to come to your school, make sure you call in and blah, 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 blah. So this was a man who was deliberately placed out here for the purposes of influencing our youth. Okay. I mean, and it was done to the extreme. Let me share another screen with you. Just let me pull this up. Okay. Got this man out here on Sesame Street. He's performing live for children at elementary schools. They got him out here on Sesame Street with Elmo and the whole gang. So you can't sit here and lie to me and tell me that this LGBTQ agenda is not something that's ran through us and ran through our history of pain and struggle. You can't tell me that. And it's because the history of pain and struggle has never been resolved that people are still able to eat off of it today, that have not our best interest at heart when it comes to our group. They don't care anything about what we're talking about concerning reparations and a Black agenda. And that doesn't have nothing to do with nothing. But what I will do is that we'll talk about the injustices of the past so that we can twist it and wrap it around with immigration or LGBTQ issues or even stopping Asian hate. Look at how they segued from Black folks being the victims to now, wait a minute now, you're also the aggressors as well. They'll find a way to wrap you around or to wrap others around you, your struggle, and your history of pain in order to advance another agenda that has nothing to do with us, nor does it benefit us. And like I said, look at where we are with all this. This is where we are. And this is something that was done very deliberately. And now you got this same man out here now. The same man, let me go ahead and pull it up. He goes from Old Town Road to going on elementary school world tours to being promoted on Sesame Street. You got these kids that are in love with you, and now we out here on this. This is what we're doing now. Busting it open on the devil. Busting it wide open for the devil. And trust and believe your children, if you're not on top of this, they're watching and they're paying attention. They love it and they're confused. They're being made confused. You're not going to sit here and lie to me and tell me that now all of a sudden in 2021, children don't have impressionable minds. You're not going to lie to me and tell me that. Now they don't. Apparently 3-year-olds now are able to tell you what their gender are at 3 and 4 years old. But my point of all this is that this is all being rolled in through us and through our struggle and through our pain and through our suffering. And you're not allowed to have an opinion on it, or else you're homophobic. And if you're not black, you can't have an opinion on it because you're homophobic and you're racist. So you better not say nothing. This is what we have going on out here. And I want to show you one last tweet from Lil Nas X, because it's all of this is really sickening, right? It's all really sick when you think about it. And the reason that I'm even doing this stream today on this is because, for as careful as I try to be with what I talk about on here, it gets really irritating having to hold your tongue and not speak on the obvious when you just see ridiculousness happening right in front of you, right? So I'm just not interested in holding my tongue on this topic. Let me go back to Twitter. Share the screen. Now we'll go back to Lil Nas's X page. Let's go back. Rapper Joyner Lucas said this: I think the biggest problem for me is the fact that he don't understand Old Town Road is every kid's anthem. Children love him for that record. They tuned in and subscribed to his channels. So with no disclaimer, he just dropped some left field-ish and all of our kids seen it. Shake my head. And this man's response is, I'm literally singing about lean and adultery in Old Town Road. You decided to let your children listen. Blame yourself. Let me tell you why that's wicked and demonic, right? I'm going to tell you exactly why that's wicked and demonic. It's wicked and demonic due to the fact that it literally plays out. His response is literally the kind of a response that you would hear from Satan himself. Because like you always hear, or maybe some of you, let's say concerning Satan and the devil, right? The devil can't make you do nothing, but all I can do is put the thought in your head. I can tempt you. And if you fall into it, well, that's on you. All I can do is give you the thought. All I can do is, just because I placed a song in front of you, you chose to listen to it. Just because I showed up to your children's school, you could have had them call out of school. You chose to let them go to school. You chose it. I didn't make you do nothing. You see how wicked that response is and how wicked he is? He's saying, I didn't make you do anything. All I did was give you the thought. All I did was place the song in front of you. All I did was make the record. Don't blame me. You chose that. That's wicked and demonic in and of itself, to even have a response like that. But you see, we're not even allowed to call that kind of stuff out, because this will then be considered, oh, you're picking on him. You're picking on LGBTQ. This is hate speech. No, it's not. No, it's not. I don't have no problem with these folks at all. Black Light Revelations 2, I appreciate you, brother. And we'll talk later. But this isn't hate speech. This is honest critique. Because you see, at the end of the day, these folks can do whatever they want to do, right? I don't really care what you choose to do on your own personal time and what you choose to do in your home, right? But once you want to start forcing this stuff on the children, you feel me? That's when I take heed. That's when I take a problem. That's when I have to say something. When you want to force this stuff on the babies. And what you've seen with Lil Nas X, that's just sick. These folks deliberately promoted this man to you, to your children. Had him on the elementary school world tour, having them all up on Sesame Street for the purposes of what you're getting now, right? Like I said, this is done through him. What you saw happen with him couldn't have been done with any other genre of music. Only with hip hop. Only with hip hop. Like I said, this stuff they always find a way to run it through us. Only with hip hop that could have worked. And in closing, now here we are once again. And I played this already, but I'm gonna play it again. Having these kind of conversations.
For transgender medicine.
The specific question was about minors. Let's be a little more specific since you evaded the question. Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions?
Who are street kids? Who are street kids? We all know who that is. We all know who they're talking about. We all know the codified language when we hear it. Let me raise my seat up a little bit. We all know the codified language when we hear it. Give me a second. Y'all know who they're talking about when they say street kids, right? Y'all know who they're talking about, right? And here's the last thing too, because I really want to hammer this home, right? Because this might have went over everybody's head because I didn't make mention of where I got the video from that proved that the Black Lives Matter organization is an LGBTQ organization. Right? Let me pull this up in front of you right now as well. Share the screen. Because you're seeing history change right in front of your eyes as well, too, with the way in which they were able to piggyback off of our history and then rearrange it to mean something else. Look at this. This article right here is where I got that video from that I played earlier. But look at the title. And she made mention of this as well. But look at the title. Black trans activists on being the blueprint for the struggle for Black freedom. I'm going to repeat that again. Black trans activists on being the blueprint for the struggle for Black freedom. And when I played this video, this individual had the audacity to say, as you heard earlier, and I'll play this one last time too. I'll play it through here. No, I'll just play it the other way. But this individual that you see right here on the right, right, or on my right, had the nerve to lie and say something that's historically inaccurate by saying that Black trans have always been the blueprint for Black struggle and Black freedom. That's historically inaccurate. I'm gonna play this one last time for you as well, because it's just a lie.
Thank you so much for having me. I think that it is crucial that we understand that Black trans people have been the blueprint for the struggle for Black freedom for forever.
Since when? Since when? Since when? What is this individual talking about? In no way, shape, form, or fashion is that historically accurate. That's a whole lie. Let me finish it for you.
Thank you so much for having me. I think that it is crucial that we understand that Black trans people have been the blueprint for the struggle for Black freedom for forever. We, the founders of Patrice Colors, Opal Tumanti, all three of them started Black Lives Matter with the intention of Black trans women being at the center of this work. As the movement has grown and as time has passed, we've perhaps moved away from that in some ways, but I think that in general we have to understand that this moment that we are experiencing requires and necessitates the presence, uplifting, and empowerment of Black trans people. And I think that the moment that we find ourselves in is one that I hope has longevity and continues to move forward.
So, I mean, with all that being said, man, I don't want to sit here and beat a dead horse, but you all get the gist of what I'm talking about today. And I want to thank, give me just a second, Philosopher King, I don't know how to pronounce your name, bro. But I appreciate the super chat. He said, blessings to you and yours. Thank you. But like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up, man. I don't want to beat a dead horse, okay? But I really just had to say something. I had another video, kind of just my regular kind of, breakdown video concerning politics and Joe Biden and all that kind of stuff. I had that lined up, but I really had to say something about this because, I mean, I'm gonna just be honest with you, man. It's sick. It's sick. What you see happening is sick. The way that our children are being pandered to, it's not right. It isn't right. And they're doing it, like I said, on the back of our pain, our history, our struggle, not theirs. They ride our wave to elevate their agenda. But it never works the opposite. It never works the other way around. You never see anything related to immigration, LGBTQ, whatever, being against Asian hate, right? All that stuff that's going on with Asian folks. You never see somehow a Black agenda springboarding or any type of Black conversation that's positive springboarding off of those conversations and those agendas and those issues that they have. You never see that. It's only with us that some way, somehow, they're able to springboard off of our history, our pain, and our struggle to benefit themselves. And you turn around and end up being the enemy if you have the audacity to have something to say about it. So with all that being said, man, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this live stream down. Shout out to Dapper Drapper Scott. Drapper Scott, he said, keep up the work. I appreciate you, brother. You follow me around on like I got like a third channel too that you guys don't even know about. And the boy Drapper Scott, he's on all the channels showing love. So I appreciate that. But with all that being said, man, let me stop rambling. You all get the gist of what I'm talking about today. So with all that being said, thank you for tuning in. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. All social media links will be pinned in the comment section below. Also make sure you text tdhiphop to number 33222. That's tdhiphop to number 33222. That way you'll get a direct text notification whenever I release a new video, but it also serves as a protection plan for myself in case YouTube ever gives this channel the axe. I'll be able to send you a direct link to where you can find me next. And lastly, but certainly not least, for those of you who have a love and appreciation that I've put in on this chat for the work that I put in on this channel, the number one way you can show your support to me is through Patreon for only $3 a month. That'll help put me in position to take TD Hip Hop Media off of YouTube. Remember, the goal is not to grow big on YouTube, but to grow independent of YouTube. Okay, so until the next video, peace.